anybody does not approve the minutes, say aye.
Well, we could just say nay. Oh,
Or,
okay. This sounds like a
correct,
double
yes.
negative. All right. Anyone? Why can't we do it the normal way and just write in the comments approved? Then you got a record.
It's easier to hear it a little bit the other way. I'm recording the meeting anyway.
Okay. All right. So let's just do all approved. Aye.
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 That's pretty rough, but I think anyone opposed? Nay. Go ahead. So I'd say the ayes have it, Alan, if you're able to record it in some way.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
And it looks like, Steve, we have open comment. I don't know if we ever set anything up. I think Brendan was going to work on a public access option. Brendan, are you out there? I see Brendan on the meeting, but you know, if no one is here from the public, we can give them a second. Anyone here that has something for public comment period, go ahead. All right, so maybe I'll turn it back over to you, Steve, for going around to give committee updates, or someone can jump in on one of the committees as well.
Okay. Comment for CBB.
If I could just jump in real quick, I think we have Jess already on the call, and might be worthwhile having him go first so he doesn't have to stay for the whole thing.
Totally agree. If Jess is here, it's all yours, Jess.
Before you start, Jess, if I could just say for folks that are on the call, he does have a list of about a dozen or so pre-sent questions that folks sent to staff council that I assume he's going to go through. I don't want to speak for Jess. If you have any additional questions, please write them in the chat screen as opposed to speaking out, and I will do my best to moderate those. And if they don't get asked, or if they don't get answered in the process of his comments, then I'll make sure to ask them for you.
Okay, so I'll go from the list. Thank you, Alan. And you know, I guess I'll preface the conversation with say that I think for everyone, pretty much, this is a little like trying to build the plane as we're trying to fly it. So I appreciate that there's a lot up in the air and there's a lot of desire for answers right now, some of which, you know, I may have or be helpful with, and some of which, honestly, we just don't have yet. You know, this is definitely an evolving picture, and we're doing our best to keep up with changes as they come. So the first set of questions, I think, let me put aside, I think there's broader questions about how the leave under the Families First Act combines generally with leave time and how it works and what options are available to folks. So I think I'll save that for last, because I'm guessing that that's going to be the biggest swath of questions. So let me start with some other kind of easier questions to handle first. First is whether or not there's a required formal documentation for people who want to use EPSL or emergency paid sick leave. And the answer to that is no. There is not any formal requirement for documentation. The best advice right now, you know, unlike usually if you were to access sick leave for an extended period or FMLA leave, you know, we don't want people going into doctor's offices. Our healthcare system is already pretty overwhelmed, and it's a bad idea to go out any place, especially into a medical setting, unless you have to. So that is not required right now. There also are some questions on whether we are considering furloughing or laying employees off, whether the university is considering that. You know, at this time, that is not part of the discussion. But as I said, to start with, you know, I can't tell you whether that will be the case in the future or not. I think there are too many unknowns right now about what our financial picture is going to look like going forward, what kind of class we're going to have coming in the fall, and what the timelines are going to be about when we can resume operations that look a bit more normal, so to speak. Um, let's see. There are questions about the reporting form. I'm not sure. So the reporting form, let me be clear that the reporting form that I think everybody has gotten, if they've been somebody who's identified as being sick or at risk, that's coming from the emergency operations group. And I know that Bethany's on this call and probably can speak some to this as well. But the reason for the reporting form is kind of separate from use of the leave. Okay, so the reporting form is intended to track health risks and public health cases for the emergency operations group. And supervisors, if they believe that an employee, has been exposed, and if they've been exposed and have been on campus and around other employees within the last 14 days, they're supposed to complete that form, and then supervisors should follow up with them to kind of identify times when, for example, if they've had to quarantine, when that quarantine is done, or if they've been tested, what the test result was. So I hope that answers the question on forms. Let's see, what else do we have here? Will we reevaluate the possibility of donation of sick time to a central bank? The question is, will HRS reevaluate that? That's really an institutional decision. I don't know at this point if there will be institutional interest in that. I will say for the short run, employees now have a whole bunch of additional leave available to them for COVID-19 related reasons. And I'll cover all of that more in a minute. So I think that, it's possible that there may be consideration of that. I don't know the answer to whether or not that will be a real possibility in the near future. Let's see. So related to that, will there be additional emergency leave policies put into place if this continues longer than 1 to 2 months? So I think, again, that right now we're kind of dealing with a very short term of what can we do to make sure that, folks are working as best as we can get them working at home and remotely for right now, and that folks have leave available to use if they have childcare or other needs, or they get sick. For the short run, and I think the question presumes, and very correctly so, that there's going to need at some point to be a longer term solution, but that depends on how long this goes on and what the picture looks like in a month or two from now. But I do think that, yes, there will be development of, kind of longer term solutions if there's a need for that, and I think it'll be clearer in the coming weeks whether or not there is a need for that and how serious that need will be. Okay, next round of questions here. Flexible scheduling and how supervisors are handling this. So supervisors should be as flexible as possible, especially around telework. What we've been clear with is nobody should be expecting that an employee is, sitting glued to Teams in front of their computer from 8 to 4:30 every day. I know I've been in meetings, I'm sure many of you have too, where there's, a toddler or two climbing all over one of the participants, and there's a dog barking or running around in the background. This definitely applies to my situation with the dog, at least too, or the teenager in the background for me. And this is just kind of the new reality, and everybody's doing the best that they can right now. So it's not reasonable to expect that people are glued to their computer from 8 to 4:30 every day in a normal office-like setting. And we have stressed that to supervisors. So, it may be that you have an employee who is, kind of co-parenting with a spouse and trying to handle all the schoolwork and the needs of their kids who are at home. And it may be that employee is available from, 7:30 in the morning until 10, but then can't be available for a couple hours and is available again in the afternoon and maybe doing some work over the evening or over the weekend to be able to stay on top of things. So around scheduling and meetings and things like that, supervisors are encouraged to be as flexible as possible. If there are questions and you have questions about clarity or needing clarification on a specific issue, you can send them to the LER email address, which you can access right off of the HRS website, the Human Resource Services website. Or you can also try the HRS info email address, and it will get routed very likely to the LER rep or LER professional that's assigned to your area. There's a question about what happens when staff are called back to work and schools are still out. So is the university thinking ahead to if camps are out for the summer? We haven't talked specifically about camps being out yet, but I imagine that the language that is under the CARES Act applies equally to, you know, school or daycare closures, or, you know, the need to care for children if there are no other options to care for them. So I don't think anybody is going to view narrowly, well, gosh, schools, you know, schools are now out, but there's no camps, and so does this now not apply anymore? I think it's a different story though if, you know, we're so lucky as in a month from now things have improved dramatically and school goes back into session. You know, the leave is available through December 31st, but the part of the leave that only applies to school closures and caring for children obviously wouldn't apply anymore if it's a non-issue and schools are back in session. So I hope that answers that. Let's see, I think there are a couple more questions that you sent later, Alan. So somebody has noted it's a pay cut to take advantage of the Families First Act, and many people can't take reduced pay. So what options do they have? So the options that folks have are that they can certainly, you can use the leave intermittently, but you can't use it intermittently on a daily basis, but you could do it on a weekly basis. So a good example of this would be, you know, if I'm sharing kind of parenting and schooling responsibilities with my wife, and, you know, 2 days a week I'm handling them, and 3 days a week she's handling them, and maybe we switch on and off, I can use my own leave, or I can telework, you know, a couple of days a week, and then just take advantage of the public health emergency leave, which is the expanded FMLA leave for childcare, the other days of the week. So that would get me closer to my complete salary. But what we can't do though is have it be on a daily basis. So in other words, you know, on Monday I took leave and then I topped off with my own leave for 33% so that I don't have to take a pay cut. But it can be done on a daily basis in full day increments. So again, you know, you can use intermittent leave for this public health emergency leave, and that would mean that you could only take a few days a week and not every day as the public health emergency leave, and then either telework or substitute your own leave balances for other days. So I hope that that helps clarify that question. The last ones were, hold on. I think I may have covered everything that was sent in, Alan. Do I have that right? And now I'll turn to some of the questions in the chat as best as I can.
There is one other one. I didn't actually send the question. I just made reference to an email that was sent regarding recent new mothers or expecting mothers and the conflict between the emergency relief and FMLA and all that fun stuff.
Okay, I don't think I see that one, Alan. Am I missing it?
Well, it was, I just made a bullet point of it because you were copied originally on the email that went to folks. So let me see if I can pull that up real quick.
Let's see. Additional time, no.
It was just a bullet point. I didn't copy the whole email on it.
Okay.
So it was, but you were on an email that you would have seen the whole thing. So I just made reference to that email. So I'm sorry if I didn't include it all.
Okay. Can you just read what's the specific question, Alan, and I'll do my best.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the email. Let me get back to the questions here that we have right now, and then I'll try to track it down. So one person just wanted to make a point of order. Is all this content that you're presenting acceptable to share with our units? The staff council meetings are open meetings and open to the public, and minutes are typically documented on our webpage. So Jess, unless you have any concerns or issues about sharing this information.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, there's a question about a form that Bethany answered. Let's see. My understanding is that once an employee reports in the online EOG form that they have symptoms or COVID-19, Nancy Carney will follow up with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So that's kind of outside of the HR realm. I'm not sure. And again, Bethany may be able to chime in on that with who actually does the follow-up. But I know that somebody is supposed to be following up with them, both to see how they're doing and to make sure that we're updating specific progress. So if they've been quarantined or they're being monitored or they've been tested, then we want to make sure that the employee is aware that they should be updating us on their status so that we can, the easy example is somebody has been tested and they're waiting test results and they've been to campus within the last 14 days. We may have an obligation to make people who they may have been exposed to aware if there's a positive test result, right? So, but I'm not sure who specifically is doing that content, that follow-up. Can you help with that, Bethany?
Yeah, I can
This-
speak to that for just briefly. So I don't know who Nancy Carney is. Each unit has their own HR, maybe not HR, but their own liaison that is working with the Emergency Operations Group for this tracking purposes. So Nancy Carney may be that person in lead unit.
this
I'm not
is-
sure who that is.
This is Gary. Sorry for late. Nancy works for Center Health and Wellbeing, and there was a point when the Vermont Department of Health's capacity to do social tracking exceeded their ability. So we identified somebody in Center for Health and Wellbeing that would assist us with doing social tracking for employees so then we could develop an appropriate response. And Bethany's right. We also have a person in each of our academic and administrative units that we work with on these employee issues to either help with the reporting or the follow-up.
Okay, I found the other one, Jess, that I was referring to.
Sure.
It's rather lengthy. Wanted to bring to your attention that new mothers are precluded from taking FEL because FMLA was taken during maternity leave, and the way UVM calculates FMLA as a 12-month look back and not a calendar year.
Okay,
That
I know
means-
what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Okay, cool, great.
Yeah. So the question is, let me give, I think, a very brief primer on the two forms of leave. Okay, these both came in under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Okay, or now affectionately called the FFCRA. And there's two kinds. The first kind is emergency paid sick leave, or EPSL, and that is 2 weeks or 80 hours of paid sick leave. Depending on what it's used for, it can be 100% of pay, or it may be 67% of pay if it's being used to care for children, okay, because their school is closed. So that's one form of leave. That is a completely new form of paid sick leave. So it's not amending an existing statute. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It's just provided under this act. The other form that comes in under the act is public health emergency leave, or PHEL. And that leave is the added leave. It's a total of 12 weeks, but the first 2 weeks of that leave can be either unpaid leave, your own leave balances, or that other new emergency sick leave that I just referred to. So a total of 12 weeks, but it's really 10 additional weeks paid, and you have to use your own paid leave or the other paid sick leave for the first 2 weeks of it. Okay, so that's kind of the framework, but this second kind, this PHEL leave, is not new and novel. What it does is it amends the FMLA, the existing Family Medical Leave Act. And because it amends the FMLA, what that means is employees are limited to 12 weeks in a given year of time. And so technically, if you've already used your 12 weeks, and I think the example that was provided is if you've used your 12 weeks because you just went out and had a baby and have exhausted your existing FMLA benefits, and now you come back and, oh my goodness, I have this brand new baby and I have no daycare because no daycares are open. What do I need to do? Excuse me. Just allergies, I promise. So that was the question: is can we change how we view that? And the answer is that is something that we're looking into, because the concern would be for somebody who's just had a new baby. All right, now this leave that should have been available to them is not available to them because they just had to exhaust their FMLA leave when they went out to have a baby. So that is something that we're looking into, and I think maybe the easiest thing to do would be for me to communicate when I have a firm answer through Alan and Steve and Caleb a firm answer to the group on whether or not we will count FMLA leave that has already been taken in the past year as a bar to taking this new public health emergency leave. So hopefully that answers that.
Okay. Next question is, talked to an employee yesterday, not sure what department he's in, but he changes the locks and RAL. His last day was Friday. Given 2 weeks severance, then has to use sick vacation time until he's called back.
Yeah, so that I don't think it's severance pay. That would be a severance pay would be he was being terminated, right? And so he would be given that. I think what has happened for some employees who are unable to telecommute and are not essential employees who have to come to campus, because we have a certain amount of employees, most especially this is in custodial services and physical plant and folks who have to come in to do an actual physical job. So we have some number of those folks who cannot telecommute and are not essential. And for right now, while we figure out a longer term plan, those folks have been told either you're essential and you need to come to campus, or if not, please use this emergency paid sick leave, which you can use because there's a governor's order, stay home, stay safe order in effect. Or if you would prefer for some reason to use your own leave or take an unpaid leave, you can tell us that, and you're welcome to do that too. So I think there may be some confusion, I'm guessing, as to what the 2 weeks pay is, but the 2 weeks is the emergency paid sick leave and is not, as far as I'm aware, I would think that I would hear about it if we were terminating an employee, and I'm not aware of that happening. But he can certainly, if he has questions about what has happened or what it means, he can send them to the HRS info, or he can send them to his LER professional for the area and get some clarification on that for his specific situation.
Great, thanks. Next question, is the intermittent leave taxable income?
Yes, it is taxable income, just like any other. It's just like if you were taking sick leave, let's say.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand the question from Lee Diamond. Single parents do not have this choice, or what is that?
So Lee, if you can maybe get online and clarify what you're saying.
Hi.
Hi
Can
there.
you hear me?
I sure can.
You just mentioned something about you taking care of the kids and then your wife taking care of the kids. You gave an example, and I said, well, single parents wouldn't have that option of like two parenting, two parents.
Yep.
And so I have a few friends that are single parents, and they're struggling with homeschooling and working.
Right.
And then maybe not a flexible manager. I know you said managers are supposed to be flexible, but I don't know what they should do in that situation. So.
Yeah. So a couple of things to that, Lee. First of all, you're absolutely right that, if you have a spouse or a partner, then, you may be able to share in some of the homeschooling possibilities a little bit more easily than if you don't. But even if you don't, a couple of things. Number one, you can still certainly fully avail yourself of the public health emergency leave, and you can do that for up to 12 weeks. And again, the first 2 weeks, if you're taking them, can either be your own leave, unpaid leave, or the emergency paid sick leave that is now offered. But you get a total of 12 weeks at 67% of salary. If the employee has, accumulated leave balances, they still can, some days of that week use their own vacation time or their own sick time toward things. And then for the balance, use the public health emergency leave, but it has to be in a full day increment. So that could get them at least a lot closer to what their salary would be. But to your last point, yes, managers should absolutely be flexible with employees, and it's going to be within reason. So flexible doesn't mean you only have to work 2 hours today, and I'm going to pay you at 100%. But flexible does mean it may be that some employees are, working early in the morning or in the evening or around their kids' nap schedule, or they have their mom or their sibling coming over to help with the kids for certain hours during the day. So we should have as much flexibility as possible around those things. And if that's not happening, then the employee should either email their LER professional or HRS info.
Okay. The next question I see is parking related, so we'll skip that for now because I don't think that's you, Jess.
That is the only problem right now. That is not mine. Yes.
So you're probably seeing this. If the governor extends the stay home, stay safe order, will an expanded pool of ESPL be available to those employees that can't work from home?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that yet. You know, I've touched on a few times. I think that certainly the longer this plays out, the more likely it is that there's going to be a need for a longer term plan. I think that folks are aware of that and thinking about it, but I think it's a little premature right now. You know, we really don't know yet what it's going to look like going forward, and there are pieces of the puzzle that we still need the answer to. I think most especially financially and with what the incoming class looks like and how long, you know, and of course it's anybody's guess, but you know, when there maybe is at least a little bit more information about how long this is expected to remain in place. I think we're trying to put it together as we go along, but I assume that in the next couple of weeks there will be some more clarity and more answers, and we'll certainly share that as soon as we have it.
All right, next I think is kind of related to what you just said. Governor Scott said yesterday in his press conference that the plan is to announce an update to the April 15th stay at home, stay safe executive order sometime this week. What are UVM's plans if the date is extended? So I think you sort of just answered that.
Yeah.
Clarifying that 80 hours divided by 2-week PSL framework.
Yep.
You got that one?
Yep. I think we just talked about it, but that, so the emergency paid sick leave, if it's being used to care for, if you're using that as the first 2 weeks. So, you know, the example that Lee had given earlier of, look, if I'm a single parent and I have kids at home and I don't have help and I can't take this intermittently where I'm doing it 2 days a week and my spouse is doing it 3 days a week, what do I do? So you can, if you're taking the leave in whole, so you're going to take the whole 12 weeks, let's say, the first 2 weeks of that, you can use the emergency paid sick leave instead of having to use your own leave balances or unpaid leave, okay? And if you're doing that, you can use the emergency paid sick leave intermittently. If you wanted to use it for, you know, I have my mom coming and my brother coming and whoever to care for the kids on this day, so I only want to use 2 days, you can definitely use it intermittently in those cases. Other than that, if you're using it because you're actually sick or you're quarantining or something like that, then you can't use it intermittently. Once you start using it, then you have to use the whole thing, the whole 80 hours. Unless it goes away. So you don't need to quarantine anymore because you used your own sick leave for the first week of quarantine and you only, you know, had to quarantine for 14 days. So now you've used the emergency paid sick leave for the second week, but the quarantine is over. So if the reason for using the sick leave goes away, then you get to use the balance of it. But otherwise, once you start using it, you have to use the whole thing. The exception to that is if you're using it for the childcare to take care of your kids, then you can use it intermittently. So you can use it a day a week, for example, if you only need to take or 2 days a week, if you only need to take 1 or 2 days at a time. And I know this is all clear as mud, folks. Believe me, I've spent way more time trying to read and understand these statutes in the last couple of weeks than I wish I had. So if you may well need help and have additional specific questions to your situation, and please reach out as those things come up.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat at this point. Does anybody else have any other questions that you wanted to place in the chat?
Yes, I'm writing one right now.
Sure.
Or you could just ask it.
Yeah, why don't you just ask it, Holly? Go ahead.
Where's the best place to get a recap of all those things you just covered?
Yeah, so I think Wanda had sent a memo out that was an overview of both of these kinds of leave that was put together. That is available. Gary, I think that's on the COVID-19 website. I think it's also on the HR website. The other place,
yes to both. Yes, to
the
both.
other place that might be helpful, Holly, is we have a bunch of FAQ that are employee specific. I am going to be updating those as we get questions. So, for example, this question around intermittent leave has been a pretty common one, and there are a couple of other ones too that I've been keeping track of here, and I can probably tell you what they are in a minute.
And where is that FAQ, Jess?
So that you can reach, if you go to the HR website, Holly, right on the front page, there's COVID-19 resources.
Yep.
And the FAQ are there, and I believe that the employee-specific ones are also mixed into the FAQ on the bigger COVID, the Emergency Operations Group website. There's a specific category there for employees too. So either place you can get to them.
Can I ask one quick question about the leave? Because I read Wanda's email and she covered vacation and sick leave in parentheses several times, but I just want to know for my team, if you have a choice, can I use my sick leave if I have it? And do I have to use vacation leave if I'm shortening my day or taking a day off during the week while I'm working from home?
So if you, and is it for a COVID-19 related reason, I guess is my question, Holly.
Well, it is because I'm being forced to work from home because of COVID-19. It's not like I'm sick.
So, yeah.
Because I'm forced to be home I'm not necessarily ill, but the way it was presented in her email,
right,
sick leave and vacation time, it wasn't clear which you can use when, or if you have a choice.
Right. Yeah. So there's a distinction between, so if you're home and able to telework, right? So for thankfully for most employees, I think both faculty and staff, they're home and they're able to telework. Not easily necessarily, because many of us have, kids and stuff going on that makes it a little bit complicated. So if you're home and able to telework, then you're working as you normally would. And if you want to take leave, you take whatever leave you would normally take. Okay. But that's different than I'm home and I have, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old and their school is closed and I'm a single parent. And so because of all these COVID-19 reasons, I now need to take leave. The answer to that is yes, you can use any form of accumulated leave that you want. And you may also be able to use, you can also use this public health emergency leave or emergency paid sick leave. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Jess, I think that pretty much covers all the questions that you would be involved in. So thank you for your time.
Sure. And please, I'm happy to come back and update however often is helpful or needed. And I also will, as soon as there's more information, I will certainly share that with you guys. And my note to follow up is specific to the question on FMLA and whether that will be counted against somebody as it normally would for FMLA if they've already exhausted their balances for this year. And I'll send that response just to Alan and Steve and Caleb to share however they see fit.
Perfect.
Sound
Thank
good?
you.
Thanks very much, everybody. Keep the faith and please hang in there. And I appreciate all the work that all you guys are doing to share information with campus. So thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Bye now.
So Gary, if I could possibly kick back 2 of the questions in the chat to you, not to put you on the spot, but the one regarding, let me scroll back up here, continuing to be charged for parking during this period of time.
I don't have an answer to that. And what I saw was Steve responded to Nick's question saying that Steve has reached out to Transportation and Parking.
Yep, I saw that too. So, okay. And the other question that you may or may not have an answer to would be the one regarding the requirement to wear surgical masks if working on campus.
Was there a specific question about that?
Yeah, it says.
So I'll tell you that with the governor's, yep, go ahead.
It says, is UVM going to require surgical style masks to be worn if you are working on campus?
Yep. So here's the situation. The governor and the commissioner of health last week recommended and encouraged the use of masks on campus. They did not require it. So that's part of it. What we are doing is we are making available to those employees that are needing to do their work on campus a supply of disposable face masks for their use, and we'll begin distributing them tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
But again, the tricky part, are we going to require? We are strongly encouraging, we're, asking for compliance with this. But right now, since the, the direction right now coming from the governor and the commissioner of health is that it's strongly encouraged. That's where we're at. I would say, don't be surprised if that changes. Doesn't change in the near future by the governor.
Great, thank you.
And we're communicating directly with every employee with regards to that.
Okay. Steve, I will punt it back to you now.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Next up is, let me see, standing committee updates. So let's kick off with CBB. Is Mindy on? I think she said she could do it.
I can do it. So, CBB last met on March 12th. We discussed the staff council survey and the sampling, the decision to use the sample. And we updated the committee on work being done on telecommuting and expanding fertility benefits. A group of staff working on a proposal for creating an employee leave sharing / donation program is seeking support from staff council. The committee briefly discussed it, but we didn't have enough in attendance for a full discussion. But CBB is meeting via Teams this Thursday. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I would say if there are any questions for Mindy, put them in the chat box. And if not, we will move on to engagement committee. Is Allison or Bob on?
Yes. Can you hear me? Am I on?
You are, yes.
Okay. We have not met. We've been corresponding with Elizabeth to assist her with her weekly mailings that she's been doing.
All right, fantastic. Again, if there are questions for the engagement committee, put them in the chat box and we'll address them as they come up. So next up is PPD.
So the last time that we have met was on February 18th. We will be meeting again this month to continue our discussions on our main agendas, but we do have an exit interview survey letter that has been moved forward and is under review. So that was one thing that we did continue to kind of work on behind the scenes. And obviously telecommuting was another subcommittee that we've done a few things on. But again, we'll be hopping on board this month to kind of catch up on things.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up, social committee, and I see in the chat that Shirley, it's all you.
Okay, we last met on February 18th and we had a nice summary, but I have updated our summary to reflect where we're at now. So we had our skate night on Friday, March 6th. I think that was like the last fun thing that happened at UVM before all this stuff shut down. So we had approximately 60 people attend to enjoy free skating. We had a DJ, cookies, cider. So I heard that it went really well. We did cancel our Red Sox bus trip that was scheduled for May. So that's been canceled due to COVID-19. The Lyric Theater Matilda tickets we were selling for Sunday, April 5th, that has been rescheduled to Sunday, July 12th. So we are still selling Matilda tickets. We had a Chinese cooking class scheduled for the end of April that has been canceled, and we've reached out to the chef regarding considering doing an online cooking class, but we have nothing in place for that. The Corporate Cup, the race has been rescheduled for September 10th. I don't know if Elizabeth still needs swag, but if you have anything to donate, let her know. We have a Lake Monsters game scheduled for Sunday, June 28th, and the tickets are grandstand seating with cheeseburger, hot dog, chips, cookie, and soft drink, and we're selling at the same prices as last year, which is UVM and Foundation is $15. Seniors and retirees are $10 and kids are $8. So I hope that event is still going to happen. We are planning on it. The golf outing, I am not sure. We're looking at Friday, August 7th, and we were looking at the links at Lang Farm. They had kind of a complicated contract. So I'm not sure. Maybe Elizabeth can fill in more on that. And we're hoping to do the Smuggler's Notch Daycation again this summer, but we don't have any details on that yet. And somebody wants to know what the age limit is for seniors, and I don't know the answer to that. If you feel like a senior, then you're a senior. I think it's probably 65. And there's a question here on the chat for what event. I think she's talking about the Lake Monsters game, because that's where I mentioned senior pricing. So that's it for social committee.
Thank you, Shirley. Appreciate that update. If there's any additional updates, send them to Alan or Elizabeth, and we can put them out to everybody via the email listserv. Next up on the agenda, we have ad hoc committee updates. Anybody on the call that can give us an ad hoc committee update?
This is Kristen. Do you need me to update on the elections?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay. I guess I don't really have much of an update. As just anyone that's on the call, if you really truly want to run for president, vice president, we are definitely looking for applications for that. So please, or any nominations can be directed to staff council, myself. Anything would be helpful. So as of right now, we are kind of at a standstill, I think, at that moment.
I would highly encourage people to consider running for president. Alan, are there what are the ad hoc committees that should be updating?
Basically, similarly to the last time we met, the individual standing committees would have to pipe in on that. But there's the parenting group, there's the exit interview group, which we did get an update through PPD. It sounded like to me that they already gave us updates and their regular standing committee updates that they gave.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. So next on the agenda is officers update, but in the interest of time, so that Kaylin can do her presentation as it is listed on the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Kaylin if she's on the call to give the update, or not the update, to give her presentation. So, Kaylin.
Hi, great. So I'm gonna share my screen, hopefully successfully. Can folks see that?
I can.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you all for having me at this meeting, which was planned before everything changed. So we're living in a new time. I'm going to cover some of the things that I originally was planning to cover, but try to be sensitive to this time. And I know sustainability might not be the thing on everyone's mind at the moment, but I would also just share that our definition of sustainability at UVM is very broad and includes social well-being, economics, and obviously environment. So I think we're all in this moment pivoting a little bit more towards focusing on our the people in our communities and lives and how we all are doing as individuals. So I will touch a little bit on that as we go. And so my role here is in the Office of Sustainability. We have a two-person, I realize my video is not on. I'm going to turn it on in case you can see both. we have a 2-person office, so we really rely on partnerships. And that's one reason that I'm here talking to you all today, is because you all encompass a large part of our campus population that we want to be more involved with and understand what your needs are and interests are and how we might be able to help each other out in our shared visions. So I will start, and I guess feel free to ask questions at any time. I'm not sure I'll be able to see everything that comes on the chat, but can interrupt me as we go. So first, to just get started, I wanted to share some data. So this is a survey we did in 2018, and it's employees' answers to the question, sustainability is important to ... So employees are saying that sustainability, I guess I'll start over here, is very important to them. So over 90% of employees are saying sustainability is important to them, either strongly or somewhat. But they're not thinking that sustainability is as important to them as it is to their peers. So, or I said that backwards. People are not thinking that their peers value sustainability as much as they value sustainability. So you'll see that they're rating other employees, faculty and staff, lower, but thinking that students do value sustainability more than the average employee, and that UVM overall as an institution values sustainability. So I think we're kind of assuming that not everybody cares quite as much as us. And I just want to do this presentation and instead of using that assumption moving forward with the data and assuming that you all do care, and hoping that you all can think about that when you're interacting with others too. And even if this isn't someone's job, it seems like, you know, really our community does care about this.
Kaylin, yes, we do care. We are, continue on.
Thank you. So we did another survey last year, just in the fall, to sort of drill down a little bit more into climate change and the culture around climate change perceptions and attitudes on campus. And so we found that 78% of UVM employees are worried about climate change, and worry was the most commonly held feeling out of a long list of feelings. And so that's a higher percentage of worriers than we have in Vermont on average or in the US on average. And students are also pretty worried about this. 84% of students say that they feel worry. And this is sort of coming up in the screenshot is from a Cynic article earlier this spring, saying that this is something that folks aren't really talking about. So these numbers might sound, I don't know how they sound to you. I'd be happy to hear how they sound to you. But this is not necessarily something that folks are thinking there's a lot of conversation about, but it is a very well mutually held feeling. And I think it's really related to how folks might be feeling in this moment. A major feeling around climate change is the sense of uncertainty. And I think that's really related to how we're feeling right now. And so we learned that these feelings do show up in people's work and mental health. So this is employee responses specifically, saying that it's making people feel uncertain about their future, affecting their outlook on life, affecting their mental health, and then ability to succeed at work even. So this is definitely something that we want to figure out how to address. And we're really in the early stages of looking at the results of this survey and just starting to share the information, and are interested in hearing how other folks might interpret it or be interested in working on it. So I wanted to just share that. I wasn't planning on that originally, but because we're sort of in this moment of focusing on mental health right now, I felt like it was relevant. And I'm tentative to call these solutions, but some of the things that can be done to address these feelings and their manifestations are mindfulness, resilience, and gratitude practices, and then taking action. So actually changing lifestyle things, and often that's a good thing for your physical health to think about maybe changing a transportation choice or a food choice, and then being engaged, just an engaged citizen. And then at UVM, there are some folks getting together thinking about how to teach climate change more responsibly so that students are feeling empowered instead of overwhelmed with this knowledge and the weight of it. And there's sort of rumblings of communities forming and more of a culture of acknowledgement and support around this topic. And I think we really are in a mental health moment right now. I've been really, really impressed by what Staff Council has been putting out in terms of resources. And I think all of that work that you're doing is helping to reduce stigma around mental health and acknowledge this is a really important part of the time that we're in. And what I want to say is that it's that importance doesn't end when this pandemic ends. And I hope that some of the support that's being built can be carried on in acknowledgement of some big crises that we face in an ongoing way together. So that's just my attempt at sort of connecting to what we're experiencing in this moment. And I'm going to transition into more of sort of what the office is, how we measure sustainability on campus, and how Staff Council could be involved in improving our metrics and helping UVM be more sustainable. So our mission in the office is to bridge academics and research and outreach with the operations and policies of the university. So we're trying to essentially walk the talk. So we should be practicing all those great things that students are learning about in their classes, and our campus should be a living laboratory where we can be experiencing really the things that we're envisioning to go beyond the microcosm of campus and changes in our larger society. So we use a metric called STARS, which stands for Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System, to measure this. And this gives us some apples to apples comparison with other schools, and is pretty much the international standard. It also informs things called like the Princeton Review and Sierra Club ratings of green schools you might have seen this year that were the number 4 green school according to Princeton Review. That's sort of the public facing result of this work. And people aren't really looking at the big long report that we put in, but it comes out in nice clips like that, like number 4 green school. So it matters to the external audience in that way. So I wanted to show you, this is actually, we just submitted last week to get recognition for in STARS for this year, the 2020 year. And so this, you all are the first to see this. We haven't even shown our bosses this, so don't tell Richard Kate. And we are doing well. So this is an improvement over our last year, and we're expecting to maintain gold status. And you'll see, though, that we're not earning all of the points that are available to us. So I thought we could talk about how Staff Council as a body and you all as staff individuals, operating on campus might be able to contribute to advancing sustainability. So we're going to take it category by category. So operations is the place where we have the most improvement that we can do. It's also sort of one of the tougher areas. A lot of the things we could do in this area can require a significant financial input. The overarching category is greenhouse gas emissions. So all these other bullets below really feed into the greenhouse gas emissions report and what our overall emissions are for the university. So most of these things are more of individual choices. So as you're operating, when we all do get back on campus and are operating on campus, what food are you buying when you're eating on campus? If you are responsible for purchasing for your unit, what purchases might you be making? Office paper is actually its whole own category in STARS because it actually it seems like sort of one of the entry-level sustainability things is paper reduction and using recycled paper, but it is very impactful, even though it's sort of old news. And then how you're getting to campus. So we work with CATMA to account for how everyone is getting to and from campus, including students. And I heard a brief mention of the telecommute policy. And that it's possible that could end up being a silver lining of all of the quick adaptations that we've had to make as a university and as individuals. I know there's been work on that for a long time to try to solidify that and make it more fair and comprehensive. And we've been pushed into that all of a sudden. So maybe we'll come out of this with a more robust and equitable policy there. Waste minimization and diversion. So what are we bringing onto campus and how are we getting rid of it? There is an effort to expand the campus composting program and have office compost be more robust. Some folks might remember when office compost was getting picked up by a service and things like that, and it made it a lot easier to do composting. So that plus building in more units across campus so that more buildings have access to compost bins. The water that we use on campus, we're lucky to live in a water-rich area, but we still, there's also energy embedded in water use. So the water's having to get to you and it's also having to get warmed up. It's sort of a double whammy there. And actually, I meant to take rainwater off of here because that is not usually something that individuals have much that they can do about on campus. But those are sort of like thinking about how you're navigating the campus in the most sustainable way that you can. And we already know that employees are doing this. So this is, again, from the 2018 survey that we did. So employees are in blue and students are in red. So some things are predictable here. Employees are more likely to report a building concern. Students might not just have as much access to knowing how to do that, but then students are more likely to use sustainable transportation. They also are more likely to live on or very close to campus. But we're definitely seeing that folks are caring about doing this. I'm realizing you might not be able to see the very bottom of my, oh yeah, I think you can. But so for all of these, 1 is strongly disagree, 5 is strongly agree, in case you can't see that at the bottom. Okay, so the next category that's relevant to staff council is engagement. So we're doing pretty well with engagement, although a lot of the engagement points available are a little bit more focused on students than they are on employees. However, we do seek out points for outreach materials that are relevant to employees. We are definitely providing a lot of materials to students, and our staff and faculty-oriented materials are a little bit more light. An outreach campaign would be something that we would do. We would rally behind as a whole campus to try to change a big behavior, like if we really wanted to do encourage people to use the EcoWare program or change their transportation habits as a challenge or something like that. We'd want to include employees in that and look for a measurable result of that behavior change. We have a new sustainability ambassadors program. We have 11 units represented. I'll share a little bit more about that. And so figuring out how best those ambassadors can reach other employees, and we've looked to staff council as a format for that, and how you all have your representation across units and responsibilities to report back to your units, and how could we model and learn from staff council in order to make that program most effective. And then employee orientation and professional development and training. So making sure that sustainability is included in both of those places. So when a new person starts working at UVM, that they understand sustainability is a value of the campuses and how they can navigate campus in a sustainable way. I mean, some of the first things you do are figure out how am I going to get to campus? Where am I going to park? And if we could be saying there's all these incentives for actually not driving to campus or carpooling, and share that up front, that would be great. And professional development and training so that people who've already been here for a long time and want to get that information have access to learning what we're up to. And then you all, I know, are working on highlighting the community service efforts of different staff on campus, and it's been great to see that in the newsletter. And we do get points for having formal HR policies to support community service work happening during the work day, and would get additional points if we were able to measure, say, how many hours we were serving the community as a body. But as far as I know, that's not something we quite have a grasp on yet. And maybe that's something Staff Council could help with. So again, thinking about awareness, a lot of the engagement category is about making sure people know about what's going on. Here you can see the split between what employees know more about and what students know more about. So a lot of the things make sense. The things that are more targeted to employees are more understood by employees. So for example, campus master planning or a fellowship program for faculty are more understood by employees than students. But we would love to see this be have a greater recognition across the board. Some things that are really well recognized are ending bottled water sales and free rides on the bus, which is great to see. So the Sustainability Ambassadors I mentioned, this is a new program that started in January, modeled after our student version of the program called EcoReps. So the ambassadors are responsible essentially for sharing sustainability information to their units. A lot of times this comes from our sustainability newsletter that they forward to their areas. And just try to drum up participation and support for different activities that are going on and changing habits in their office or unit, however they're defining their area, looking for sort of easy ways to improve and make things easier for folks in that area to participate in sustainability activities. So one thing we often say with behavior change science is the best choice, and sometimes it's not always black and white what the best choice is, but the best choice needs to also be the easiest choice for people to work on to make that choice. It's usually not actually financial incentives or things like that that get people to change their habits. It's making it easy. So that's looking for places where we can make it easier for everyone to make good choices. And then it's only about an hour a month that folks commit. So we try to make it accessible and not a big burden. We have 11 units represented in our team. Some folks are pictured here. And we'll be inviting more people to join for the 2021 team in the future. Okay, so I think this is my last category. So planning and administration. So this area would be more things that Staff Council might push for as a body in a united way. And I know some of these are already possibly being worked on or that you're contributing to. So one is employee compensation. We actually get, we report on what percentage of our workforce gets a living wage. And making sure that we're inching our way up in the right direction there. Assessing employee satisfaction. So I know you all just completed the Staff Council survey, and we use the results of that and the fact that it's conducted to show that the university does care how employees are feeling about their jobs and in the workplace. The campus climate survey was also used for that credit. The wellness program. So I'm not sure how involved you all are in the wellness program, but we do get points for having that and having participation in that program on campus. And then workplace health and safety. So we want there to be as few incidents, reportable incidents, so something that rises to that level as possible, and have a safe campus environment. Finally, sustainable investment. So folks might have seen that there's a new Board of Trustees working group around sustainability, and they're specifically looking at divestment, which means not investing in fossil fuels. And so the other sort of, I'm forgetting sort of the right name, but student government, graduate student senate, and faculty senate have all put forward resolutions supporting UVM's divestment from fossil fuel in order to make that statement and make it clear that their bodies support that. So staff council has not done something like that yet. That could be an option for staff council to pursue if there's interest within your group. So we already know that there's a lot of interest in support of these policies. And so we asked about everything from cleaning our vehicle fleet to adding more green space and stormwater retention, changing the food services, improving zero waste, all these things on the bottom. There was support really across the board. We were trying to see what people supported most, and really nothing was considered neutral or unimportant. Everyone really wanted to see all of these things be happening. So we know that these are visions that our community has for itself already. So then I think this is my last slide. Just sort of, I know that can be a lot and overwhelming, and this is a time of a lot of overwhelm. So I had a slide in here before about what you could do on campus, and I know most people are not on campus. So thinking about what you could do now still. So a couple of ideas. This one comes from transportation and parking. I thought it was a nice idea. If you've ever thought about maybe bike commuting to work, but it's a little nerve-wracking and you're not sure, the traffic is kind of scary, you're not sure how long it's going to take, how sweaty you're going to be, this could be a time to test ride your commute, get some exercise. There's not a lot of cars on the road. Learn how long it takes you, what to expect. And then maybe have that be a habit you can introduce into your life once we are going back to campus. Reducing food waste. This is one of the most impactful things that anyone can do as an individual, really, outside of changing their transportation choices. Surprisingly important to reduce food waste. This is also part of being a considerate shopper at this time and not buying more than what you need at the grocery store. And then composting whatever's left. So if folks have heard, July 1st is still the start date for mandatory household composting across the state. And the Agency of Natural Resources has some good information online if you're still wondering what's that going to look like for me. No one's going to be knocking at your door saying that you're not doing that right, but oh, it looks like my screen is not shared, but that's okay. We'll keep going. No one's going to be enforcing that by knocking at your door, but it is still moving forward with July 1st. Growing your own food is a really good thing to do right now. Again, it gets back to just being more self-sufficient. You could share seeds with neighbors. Often people have seed packets that they haven't, they're not really using all 100 seeds out of the seed packet. Or buying direct. This is a time where farmers are not able to sell to restaurants anymore and are looking for new ways to sell their food. So you could support your local community by buying direct from farmers. Everyone's probably spending more time at home than usual. And so thinking about looking around your home and what sort of doing a DIY home energy audit and trying to look for opportunities to be more comfortable in your home. And cost savings that could be associated with fixing that drafty window or thinking about how to maybe run your AC differently when the time comes. something I've been doing a lot of is going on walks, and I started just picking up litter as I went on my walk. And people might be familiar with the Green Up Day initiative that happens in early May, but really any day could be Green Up Day. I know this group likes to volunteer and is really active, clearly in your roles here in Staff Council, but probably in your communities too. But if you feel like you can't volunteer in person, donating to organizations that you support could be another way to show your support. And then I always like to end by just saying, have conversations. So I'm always surprised by how little people are talking about the things that they care about. So taking this time as you're reconnecting with loved ones, maybe, far-flung friends that you might not have connected with also or before, just thinking about this as a time to share some of the things that you care about and that you're working on, and all of that helps normalize these behaviors that we really all want to see from each other and around the world. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take questions or pass on the time to the next person.
Thank you, Kaylin, very much for that presentation. Excellent. I think as far as divestment goes, I think, don't we have a presentation in May, Alan, on that subject?
At the executive board meeting, I believe, yes.
Okay.
From one of the student organizers.
Right. So that'd be the end of this month.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So that's something we're looking at presently. So are there any questions for Kaylin?
I'll just say thank you, Kaylin. That was a great presentation. Thank you for everything you do.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Okay, seeing no questions, thank you, Kaylin. Really appreciate you coming on and giving us this information. And I echo Caleb's comment. We do care. We really do.
I know. I appreciate it. Well, thank you all. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah, stay healthy.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, so in the interest of time, I think as far as the officer's update, I'll put something together in writing and send it to Alan to send out to everybody. But is there any, I have another meeting at 1:30, so I don't want to extend this too long. Is there, according to the agenda, there's new business? Does anybody have any new business at this time? All right, hearing no new business, then I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, very good. I just want to take a quick second to thank everybody for all the input that they've had in preparing these agendas as we move forward. This is certainly an unusual time for everybody, and there's a lot of uncertainty around even what's happening tomorrow. And as we move forward, really appreciate everybody's professionalism and dedication to making our lives just a little bit better. So thank you all. Stay healthy, be well, and if there are questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, Caleb, or Alan or Elizabeth at the Staff Council office. Be well, everyone. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.